Remember, this entire manga and every manga on this channel is hand-drawn by myself, and now you too can learn exactly how to make your own viral Dragon Ball mangas at www.makemanga.com, where you can learn directly from me. My mangas have got me on TV, on newspapers, and even earned me over $60,000 a month on Patreon alone. And now, you can click the link in the description and pinned comment of this video and do it yourself. You only need to see the website to see just how many thousands of you are taking this opportunity right now. And don't forget also, the next video to this Ultra Vegito series has already been made and is live now on my Patreon right now for over 4,500 of you incredible fans to watch after this. Again, links are in the pinned comment and description. Enjoy.
What has that damn devil said? How could that be true? So our story continues finally with a view of the former Grand Priest die, shocked to the core as his shaking body would be trembling and stepping backwards from the words just heard between Vegito and elusive Vegito. As with his eyes clearly wide open and looking nothing like his usual regal self, all Dai could think to himself is, that form, I couldn't forget it if I tried. It must really be true. The current devil was the God Killer all along. What nonsense. And that's not all. As soon enough, the weight of the revelation would even bring the Supreme Angel down to his knees, crashing down with sweat pouring from his face, as he would mutter, he even calls himself Lucifer. He calls himself my brother. What in the name of Zeno has been going on? Was it always this way? No. The man who embarrassed me, defeated me, was the same that used me as a vessel to return. How could Lucifer plan this far ahead? As looking at the ground now, in his mind, all he would be seeing is two gauntly figures of Devil Vegito and the devil himself, Lucifer. And curiously, the similarities would be getting more clearer by the second. Lucifer! Just who and what were you from the beginning? Were you ever my brother? As finally losing his mind, Dai would forcibly unleash his completed seraphim, as veins would protrude all over his countenance. But as the scene would return to the battle-strewn battlefield, with craters and smoke traveling everywhere on the once green grassy landscape, Vegito and Lucifer, as he would like to be called, would be stood standing facing one another, the final Vegito of Season 1 and the current Vegito of Season 2. As Vegito, beginning, would let out, You! I remember that form like it was yesterday. The biggest mistake I ever made since Beerus. Ultimate power indeed. All for that final hope of defeating Dai. But at what cost? If I had only known just how wrong things would go from here. If only I knew it would bring about Lucifer, your second coming. And how ironic You'll now be part of my third coming as well, God Killer! As Lucif Vegito, smirking back with an underhanded look, would respond, "But at least you recognize this as ultimate power, even though it may have only coursed through your body for only a minute or two." As suddenly in a flash, moving forward with invincibility Akuma style, Lucif Vegito would be right in front of the God Killer, with his blackened arm swung completely back until... What? Until in an odd move, Lucif would extend his arm with force to the side, hitting absolutely nothing, completely not aiming at a none the wiser Vegito in front. What did he just do? Leaving the God Killer bemused, but with a stunned face, as from his side, strangely, debris and wind would flow towards his face. As to the side of Lucif now, from the force of that single movement of thin air, a giant parting of destroyed land would be stretching for thousands of miles, simply shattered and erased to nothing from sheer forced air pressure alone. Ultimate power. As Lucif Vegito, now marveling at his strength, could not help but grin, letting out as he would open and close his hands. The moment you tapped into this form, the moment both you and I tapped into this, it was at that moment you two were the strongest you had ever been, splitting the all-powerful energy of the devil himself between you two, combining it with your own. A genius plan from Lucif, but an even greater gift that took both of you to untold heights. Ha! And fittingly, even with your perfect split, he knew it would be you who would harness his dark powers best. And he knew it would be Dai that would end up absorbing it all, bringing the two halves together for his eventual revival. He may be me, but I can't help but admire and take tips for my turn. Enough of your self-praise, you damn narcissist! But a triggered Vegito would be done with the winding monologues, as with his teeth gritted, he would grumble, "That thing you are now may win the award for my ugliest form yet, but I assure you, it is far from my greatest. The power of a devil transformation, this goes even further beyond." As Vegito, jumping up quick, now emulating Lucif bar for bar, pulling his own arm up, would this time be not interested in aiming at just the air. And what good do you think a devil transformation is against the literal devil? As in a brutal, swift move, Lucif would instantly rotate his body around and with it bring swinging along his gigantic tail, catching a shocked Vegito off guard before slamming him entirely backwards like a common housefly. Of course, leading to a vicious whip-like collision straight into a far behind mountain, spewing debris everywhere. How hilarious is this, Vegito? All those demon emperors, all that time struggling to get here, only to be far weaker than what you once had with Lucifer. It couldn't be me, even if it technically is. Leaving Lucifer to burst into a hysterical laughter. But as that laughter would continue to ring through the air, cracks would begin to be heard from the mountain behind until... Lucifer is nothing to me! Until exploding, utterly enraged, the black-winged Saiyan would come out like a rocket with nothing but violence and bloodshed on his mind. How very Vegito of you. I remember a time I was as naive as you. But not even bothering to turn around fully, Lucifer would just turn his head with a smile until... with a glistening of his red, demonic seraphim, he would stare intensely as... Die! With a spear-headed hand covered in pure energy, like a Chidori, Vegito would be now right behind, about to smash through Lucifer's body. And on first look, it would seem like the God Killer would actually make contact. As with perfect speed, power and technique, Vegito would ram through the devil right to the other side, leaving a spewing of black liquid splattering off where he would strike. Like I said, you're nothing to me, clown! As when we would get a view from in front of the God Killer, with his clawed hand forward, behind him, a mangled mess of Lucifer would be seen, clearly struck for all to see. No! But it wouldn't be long at all before Vegito, coming to a halt, would look down to his right, and what he would see would send shivers down his spine. What's going on here? As in a stunning sight, the mysterious black substance that was seemingly Lucifer's body would now instantly attach itself, coating the God Killer's entire arm. His face wide ajar, confused as to what was happening, whether a type of absorption or a type of infiltration into his body. But in that very instant, Vegito would be off guard like a screaming housewife. Right at Vegito's ear, Lucifer's mouth would be wide open, screaming, as a ball of energy would rapidly generate and... In a flash of gigantic light and energy, a blast would rip through the lands and apparently take Vegito with it. Son of a... But out of the destruction, the winged devil Vegito would emerge in a grump. His body largely unscathed, it would seem, but strangely, that blackened arm would not look so healthy. Back again? You just can't live without me, can you? As now in a view behind Lucifer's legs, the God Killer would just stand monitoring his injuries, before he would then let out, You are one sly dog. I've never even seen something like that, so I'm guessing this is one of Lucifer's techniques. Good intel, I guess. What have you just done? Absorbed my energy somehow? To which a grinning Lucifer would respond, Good guess, brother. A technique. Surprise, surprise. One step ahead of yours. That arm of yours Its energy is automatically mine now. Can't say it added much though. Shut up! As only when the scene would zoom out, we would understand exactly what the God Killer and Lucif had been talking about. As if Vegito had become malnourished, his once muscular arm would now be reduced to what looks like a burnt-to-ash twig. Barely able to move, almost dead already. But it wouldn't be too long before, in brutal fashion, Vegito would grab onto his disabled limb and... Big deal! With force and a brave face, he would self-mutilate himself, ripping it clean off his socket as a spray of blood would shoot out everywhere from his now exposed veins and arteries. Leaving the God Killer to do the only thing he can do, immediately regenerating a new arm, but crucially, one with no sign of his previous devil armor. Interesting ability. I'll be sure to make it mine. As he would then grumble, grabbing tightly onto the ripped-off arm until it would disintegrate within his hands. What other party tricks do you want to show me? Clearly, I don't have all day to waste around here, with how many Lucif and his buddies have killed of my friends so far. So if you don't mind, die quickly! But laughing away, extending his arms as if inviting his foe, Lucif Vegito would just respond, You know as well as me, I could never die. But if you really must find out, come and see for yourself, brother. And with that, annoyed to the highest level, Vegito would duck his head, engaging himself for battle before muttering, That will be the last time you ever call me brother! As just like that, he would then shoot forward, breaking the sound barrier with a thunderous clap as he would soar through the sky with his quadruple wings. Not my brother. Figures. You're too weak anyway. As after that snarky comment from a grinning Lucif, Vegito's first attack in the form of an elbow would land, but not where he anticipated. Under my shoe, worm! As disrespectfully, Lucif would just fold his arms and stop the God Killer's assault with simply his foot of all limbs. As looking down condescendingly, he would say, Honestly, just give up. I am you, but better. I am you, but with Lucif combined. What hope do you really have? Wait and see, clown! As with that said, instantly, the God Killer would swiftly move to his left, his whole body becoming a blur before... Out of the loss of shape, a single dark armored fist would fire forward. But nothing, simply nothing could go past Lucif's gaze, as immediately all that would happen is a loud thud as Lucif would completely grab onto Vegito's fist. And it would seem that would be the least of Vegito's worries to begin with. as following up devastatingly, Lucif would open his palm in a flash and in a nanosecond blast a flurry of energy straight down the God Killer's arm. That burns! But as he would groan from the burning pain of his entire arm's armor being blasted off, it would be interrupted instantly as the off-guard Vegito would suffer a sharp blow to the stomach, winding him instantly, even through his single armored chest plate left on his body. Sending the God Killer rapidly back to smash behind. All while Lucif, meanwhile, would just look like he had barely put in any effort at all. His attacking arm dangling in the air as if weightless. This is nothing! But amidst the smoke, defiantly, Vegito would remain still, mumbling. Only for Lucif to then raise his arm up, and as expected, generate even more energy within his palm, looking as he would comment with a smirk, "Nothing? How ungrateful, Vegito. Well, if you insist, here's a few more presents from me." As predictably, kicking Vegito while he was down, Lucif would then blast out a myriad of energy beams to finish off the job, creating an inferno of destruction in place of where Vegito was. But even then, the God Killer would still survive. Barely. His body covered in bruises and blood, as now he wouldn't have anything to say but moans of pain. That is, until Lucif would approach and a faint voice would be heard saying, "Hold it!" As using what little energy he has left to lift his head up and open his eyes in exhaustion, he would continue, "You said you had presents. Don't tell me that's all you had. Enough!" But despite Vegito's defiant words, his tune would change when Lucif's black arm would suddenly grab onto his armored devil chest and... Enough of your delusions! What? In a brutal pullback of his arm, without a care in the world, the Lucif-possessed Vegito would rip right off the biological armor, right off the God Killer, and while he was still alive to witness it, his face full of shock, pulsing with adrenaline, stopping him from feeling anything until... In an ear-shattering scream, the God Killer would feel his greatest experience of pure, unadulterated pain yet, as his whole chest would explode with blood, as his literal exoskeleton would now systematically all be removed. And in the onslaught of damage, his horns would vaporize as well, as involuntarily, the God Killer would be forced back to base. No! Let go! And as if the Saiyan had not gone through enough, in the next panel, his eyes would go wide and bloodshot, as his voice would become weak, almost as if his voice box was now restricted. As soon we would see, restricted it would be, as wrapped around the God Killer's now bloody neck would be Lucif's dark tail. Why is he this strong? Soon lifting Vegito up high into the air above him as the God Killer would just stare in fear back. All while a thoroughly pleased Lucif would look back, letting out, "Look at you. Now you don't even have that so-called devil transformation. The gap now just couldn't be any larger. I'm sorry, Vegito, but it's time you join the rest of us." As with that daunting line said, with nothing left for the God Killer to do but futilely struggle, Lucif would begin raising his hand.
Come to me! Come back to the devil, God Killer!
As we would then see a thoroughly creepy voice that could only be Lucif, with his palm now outstretched towards Vegito's face and only appearing to get closer and closer. No, I don't want to! It can't happen like this! Panicking Vegito to no end as he would struggle and vibrate in all ways. But as Lucif's palm would now practically be on his face, only muffled screams would be left to be heard. That is, until suddenly all around Lucif, a strange white energy would surround him in all directions. What is happening? As soon enough, the vast eminence of this strange white attack would be clear, aimed solely and only at Lucif. He let go! Much to the God Killer's luck, as it would result in the stranglehold loosening completely. What is this magic? It's burning! As soon enough, Lucif, under extreme stress all over his body, would be forced to close his eyes and condense his body down, as if gravity were weighing 1,000,000 times stronger than before. I can't move! Vegito, you did this! Eventually leading to Lucif crumbling down to almost his knees, struggle on his face as he simply cannot do anything about it. No! That wasn't me! This could only be... Die! As up above in the sky, a long figure resembling Dai and in a specific form would be an angelic creature holding his arm up, as his divine energy would crash down on his command. Dai! That's... Dai! What is that? Divine Smite! As of course, Dai would be revealed, but not just any Dai, but Archangel Dai, back in his ultimate form, bringing down his ultimate attack, the same one which defeated his mother, the Emperor of Sector 1, as both Vegito and Lucif Vegito would stare in complete shock and disbelief. But somewhere else, this divine entrance would mean little, as our scene would then shift to a certain underwater area, with fish and sea life roaming, as a lone black silhouette would stand at the precipice of a cliff. To think, Zeus would really say that. As finally showing himself again would be one of the elder gods, Poseidon. breathing and speaking with ease, even underwater, as he would continue to think. He would suggest us elder gods had any need to train for two lesser creatures. They are nothing but creations of Hera's multiverse. The only response needed is a creation of my own. Now, let us see. As Poseidon, now for the first time showing a smile, would raise his hand into an eccentric pose, as with his body beginning to tense, it would seem he was summoning something. And indeed he would be, as right before him, within the vast sea expanse, as the sea life would escape, several rectangular black portals would open, as Poseidon would be heard letting out, "I've created so many multiverses. Now which one has a worthy pet to use?" As we would then begin zooming into these portals, all still remaining black, until one by one, a view into other multiverses would come to life consecutively, with our panel zooming in to one specific example. A fine day, my comrades! A fine day to take back what we've lost! As in an odd scene, the first view that we would be greeted by would be one of several short green alien men, each armed to the teeth with weapons, an army of sorts, with a commander in front. And it wouldn't be long before the said commander would rally his troops yelling, "Boys, any minute now, the destroyer of worlds, the menace to our brothers and sisters all over the universe will make his arrival. Team Alpha has been tracking him for months. We've prepared, we're ready, and this will be the day we take him down for everyone! Understand?" "Yes, sir!" With that, unleashing a roar of yells from the swathes of army men, each jumping in the air with their fists pumping. But as the soldiers would yell, only one in the back would notice something up in the sky, looking up bemused, squinting away, as up above, a shining sparkle of light would be seen. But naively, the soldiers below would comment, "Hey, a shooting star! Isn't that a good omen? Make a wish, boys! Wish for our victory!" What? But in an instant, this sparkling star would turn into a rapidly falling meteor that already crossed the vast distance from above to the ground in a mere second before... Every single one of the soldiers would be lost in a wave of light so fast they would have barely any time to react nor say anything, their final moments literally flashing before their eyes. Until ultimately, the explosion to end all explosions would erupt, as clearly something nuclear had just dropped, erasing every trace of the army, and along with it, their hopes and dreams. But through the smoke, it would appear at least one figure would be left, unclear if they were there before or the cause of the destruction. A foot would then step forward, and then a half-eaten apple would fall next to its muscular leg until... Nope. Doesn't look like there's a worthy challenger here either. Until in a shock first reveal, a warrior would appear, Saiyan in appearance and even possessing a lone green seraphim, unique only to the Saiyans. his armored tribal, but clearly, much like the Saiyans of old, but with that widow's peak and extremely long hair, he would look exactly like a Saiyan of old too. An all-new Raditz has finally entered the Ultra Vegito story.
But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Raditz in the comments down below and let me know just what the Elder Gods are planning. Or just find out what happens right now on my Patreon, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked, and edited for you to enjoy with over 4,500 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.